Hey, thank you so much for listening. No matter when you are listening, no matter where you are, get comfortable. Get yourself a cup of tea, a glass, or an entire bottle of wine. Maybe smoke a blunt, get under a blanket, grab yourself some popcorn, and enjoy this week's episode of The Slut Show with Ellen Moore.
I think we are live. And that means that,
due to the current situation in regards to COVID-19, instead of recording on location here in the Slut Show studio in Amsterdam, this episode is an Instagram live stream. Follow at the Slut Show with Ellen Moore on Instagram to never miss out on any updates. And without further ado, enjoy this week's episode.
ladies, gentlemen, non-binary beings, and any and everyone in between, my name is Ellen Moore, and welcome to this fourth, I cannot believe it's already the fourth one, this fourth live Slut Show, streaming from Amsterdam. Today I will be joined by not just one, I will be joined by two fantastic women who are both mothers, and they are way more than just mothers. I will be joined firstly by Wren. She is actually the reason the Slut Show now exists, and I cannot wait to introduce you to her. Yes, there you are. Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
So good.
That's great.
How was your day thus far?
It was good, yeah, it was good. I feel like it just goes by in like such a haze, like, you know, at the minute everything's
over.
Just, yeah, literally.
Right. Totally feel you in that one. Before we're gonna get into all the goods, I have a little leader if my clip-on mic wants to do it for me. There we go.
The Slut Show with Ellen Moore, the podcast / talk show about shit you and I have to deal with on a daily basis. About feminism, insecurities, feeling like a bomb-ass bitch, and obviously about loads of sex. Enjoy your weekly dose of empowerment.
Your weekly dose of empowerment. What is the most empowering thing you did recently?
I'm not sure. I think it's like not shaving, so not shaving like my armpit hair and things like that. I like struggled so much with knowing whether I shaved like for myself or just because I always have done. So probably that. How about you?
So interesting. I literally am doing the same right now.
Oh my god.
For the first time in my entire life, I am not shaving everything.
Yeah.
Legs, armpits, everything. Just to, for that exact same reason.
Literally.
Like, oh my god. What a coincidence.
I know, it feels great, like it really does. It feels really liberating to just be like chill. I used to panic so much about doing it, and now it's just like, oh, whatever.
I remember being in high school and being like, oh, I can't wear a dress because I didn't shave my legs. And
I know.
It's out.
Yeah,
it. That's so great. This is actually, I'm so happy to have you on this live stream with me, and I cannot wait to get into everything, because you are actually one of the reasons why the Slut Show today exists. Because when I found your Is It Okay Now movement campaign, it sparked something in me that just made me realize feminism and all those kinds of things is what I'm supposed to be doing and what sets my soul on fire. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you are doing right now and what you did with your account?
Yeah, so I started the account like last year, I think it was, maybe around then, just because of like coming to terms with things that had happened in the past and really getting quite angry at how badly it exists in society. So we kind of just, I think I just connected with like Schlocke and Jo as well, who's also going to be on here, and just a group of women, and they really like inspired me to keep going at it, because at the start I was really paranoid because like you get trolls and things, and I got like worried about them stalking me and things, but it just kept going. So we did the hashtag Is It Okay Now movement because everyone was getting censored so heavily, and it just obviously wasn't fair for so many reasons, and I researched into the science behind why the female nipple shouldn't be censored and why that's so negative, and how it perpetuates all these really bad things. And
Because
I
for
think
those who don't know, the female nipple is not allowed on Instagram while the male nipple is.
yeah, exactly. And people try and argue that it's because it's sexualized and things like that, but so is the male chest, with their nipples. But everyone's like always celebrating that fact and wanting to see it. But yeah, we're kind of shut down even though we're both exactly the same. So I just kept getting like more educated and angrier because of educating myself that I get so dumb to all this. So yeah, that's kind of, at the minute I've kind of like stopped really because just a lot's going on at the minute in day-to-day life. So
Right.
but I'm still like always, the mindset is still there. So
That is so good.
yeah.
Welcome Maisie as well. She just joined in on the live stream.
Oh yeah.
So I'm very happy that she's watching, at least.
Yeah.
She was actually supposed to be on the live today. That's not going to happen due to personal reasons. However, what you are here for, because it's way more than just being a mother, but you also are a mother and you're very young. Can you take us into the process of how, what it was like, how old are you, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I was 17, I think, when I found out I was pregnant, and I was like living in just like a house share with my boyfriend and stuff. So it wasn't an ideal situation. And I'm pro-choice, so I think that everybody should have the option to get an abortion if they want. And I knew I had that option because I was living in the UK and things. So I think I just kind of felt it was right. I'm not too sure. It just didn't feel scary or anything. I was just like fully open and almost excited about it. So
That's cool.
we just kind of went along with it. So I like gave birth a week after I turned 18 to her. So she's now
Wow.
3.
That is so young. What was it like? Because I don't have any children and I'm not planning on having them anytime soon, maybe ever, I don't know yet. But what was it like to give birth at such a young age, but in general, because we're going to be talking to Jo a little bit later, and she gave birth when she was in her 30s. So the difference is pretty big. What was it like for you?
I think it was good. I found like I didn't get as informed as I should have been as a young mum by like the health professionals and things. So they didn't give me as much information because they kind of treated me like a child that had got myself into a situation almost. Like they were never judgmental, but they definitely didn't give me the options I should have been given. So I should have been told about the home birthing service and things like that. I was just kind of, I felt like they almost wanted to get me to birth in hospital because they didn't trust me to know my own body and things. So it was interesting. I didn't really get much judgment, which was surprising. But it's been quite, I guess it has had its ups and downs because of being young, being like, not knowing what's normal and then feeling stigma from other mothers who are a bit older and might not, you know, kind of look at me like, oh, they get a stigma. There's definitely a massive stigma surrounding teenagers who are pregnant or have a baby, for sure.
Why do you feel like that is?
I think maybe it's just because we always used to, like a lot of people used to get pregnant young, and they would often be more, like from more impoverished areas, and I think maybe it still kind of is that way. So perhaps they look at you like you're, you know, you didn't really think, or you haven't had a life or an education. They assume you haven't got an education. They assume you're from a certain background.
So there's a lot of assumptions made that you think make them very judgmental.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it will always remain a guess why people behave a certain way, and obviously that is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is your life and your choices, and I envy you for being here and raising your child and being such an inspirational woman to me.
Thank you.
Really.
I'm so glad to be talking to you because you do so much and it's really great, especially with like your background in modeling and things like that. So the fact you've like taken a step out and you're, you know, talking about things that affect like so many people instead of yeah, becoming like, you know, the way they want you to be, the industries and things. So
It's hard. I feel like those are things you're facing, those assumptions and that judgment
yeah,
head on, and I feel like that's something we relate in on a very different topic, but I think that's
yeah,
also kind of what creates our bond in that sense. We're both in
yeah.
the same war, kind of,
Yeah, absolutely.
if we can put it like that. So you are 20 years old. You're turning 21 in May, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I did my homework well. You told me you're bisexual and that you are currently in an open relationship. Can you tell me something more about that?
Yeah, so I've been bisexual my whole life, like from a very young age. And I sometimes like I know there's a lot of biphobia. I faced a lot of biphobia, and then also I'm still with the same partner I was with when I fell pregnant. So I started looking into like the polyamorous lifestyle, or like a friend of mine is polyamorous, and they started talking to me, and it really like struck a chord with me, like this is exactly how I feel, and I've really struggled with that, and being able to be honest about it and being ethical and just sitting down and talking to my partner about how I miss, like, you know, being with women, or just having, you know, understanding that jealousy is actually quite toxic in relationships, and that's what the media wants us to believe, that that's normal and that that's natural. And of course jealousy is natural, but it's almost like it's romanticized to toxic levels.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, so we just sat down and had that conversation, and obviously we still have our boundaries, but it was just really freeing to be able to just talk to somebody who you care about, and like be able to tell them that, you know, we still love each other, but this is natural to be attracted to other people or to want to have other experiences. So that was that.
I feel like that's also something that once more is stigmatized, and there's a lot of taboo around that. And I feel like I don't want to put words in your mouth, let me put it like that, but I feel like that again is one of those things that you have to face head first, because if you don't speak about it openly, it's gonna get worse, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was a bit crazy. I was like, when I got with him when I was 16, I was just so opposite to what I'm like now. I was so jealous and so insecure, and I was flipping out at him and essentially almost like emotionally abusing him, I think, to a degree, because of how clingy I was. And when I realized that was coming from a place of insecurity, it can actually make you feel a lot more confident if you know that it's normal to be attracted to other people, and that's not like, you know, everybody, we're just humans really, aren't we? So
how did you
yeah.
overcome that insecurity?
I think like I got pregnant and then I had her, and I guess my life just changed so much because of having a child and growing up so quickly, that I just kind of grew up, I think, in my head really. So it was.
What do you feel like are the biggest perks of giving birth and raising a child from such a young age onwards?
I'd say maybe because you're young yourself, you feel that you'll be able to deal with issues that are, you know, up to date. You've experienced issues so recently that when your child, as she grows, you'll be able to know how to talk to them and how to just be more ethical about parenting, I suppose, because you're like on their level.
Is that something that you missed growing up from your own parents?
I suppose so, yeah. My mum was also young when she had me, but I guess everyone's different and generations are different, really, aren't they? So, I definitely feel like as growing up, I could like there could have been better ways of like dealing with things at times.
What would have been those better ways in your opinion? In what situation?
Yeah. So when I was 14 and I was like I fell victim to image-based sexual abuse and just like sexual exploitation, I feel like my parents' reactions, because they were just so shocked at what had happened, you almost feel like they're blaming you because they're so upset by what's happened that they almost instantly blame you because you took the pictures and you were so silly and you know, that kind of opinion. I still don't know whether that was their opinion, but I felt like they were angry at me rather than anyone else. So I feel I would have dealt with that situation a lot differently if it happened to my own child.
Totally. I cannot imagine how that must have felt for you. I can imagine, though, how it shapes the way that you want to raise your own little girl. You're raising a girl, and how would you, because you're very open about your sexuality and about your experiences and about trigger warning rape culture, and those are things that I find fantastic, and I think it's so important to be so open about it. Also on the internet, knowing that it's not going to disappear, knowing what it's worth. How do you feel like, will that be part of sex education for your daughter? How will you do that?
Yeah, it definitely will be. I feel like hopefully their classes in school and stuff will be more up to date as well, by the time she's going. But I'll definitely always try and mention it, like in a way that isn't like, oh, mum, you're embarrassing kind of way, you know, to like just normalizing it from a young age, I think is really important, because then they don't feel that way when it comes to telling them as teenagers. I feel like I probably won't, like, it's really difficult because you don't want to be strict and be like, no social media or internet until you're whatever age, but I'll definitely kind of have limits on it, or at least give her the correct information and experiences that hopefully she will be as passionate about it, so she will know and understand. And I mean, at the like soonest sign of anything happening, I would be able to tell her, you know, what's happening and how to get kind of help or show support to her, that, you know, I never want to be like super overbearing. But I'll definitely tell her what's happening, what's like, you know, against the law, that she shouldn't be afraid to speak out or tell me about anything. So I feel like maybe being really close with your children is good, because then it feels like they can come to you with anything and talk to you rather than feel like they'll get told off for it, you know?
How do you balance that with restricting certain things on social media, and what are the things that you would want to restrict her on?
Yeah, I feel like maybe there'd have to be a bit of restrictions. It's so difficult because like you don't want to be like, but it would probably be things like Messenger or Facebook for sure. That would be, that's really like, you know, a place where people can be vulnerable. And perhaps like Snapchat, all those sort of apps, you know. But then really anyone can start talking to them anywhere, really.
Right. I think that must be so hard to let go certain things, even though you want to protect your kid from not having the same experiences that you have had.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't want to assume, you don't want to live your teenagehood through them again. Like, you don't want to make them terrified or like assume that they're going to experience that. But I guess just giving her the facts and giving her, you know, knowledge is enough sometimes to help them. So.
What was your own sex education like?
It was really bad. I can't remember, like, it was literally like 2 sheets of basic anatomy, and I feel like the anatomy was wrong because only recently did I learn that, you know, that the area surrounding the vagina is the vulva, and the actual vulva is like, I didn't know, like,
I didn't know this either. I had no idea.
It's crazy. It's so bad. Like we're just, it's awful. And then like boys get quite a, you know, they can learn loads of stuff about what's happening to them, and then we're just left there.
There's people that message me being like, oh my God, you're such a feminist. And I'm like, yes, I am. And I'm proud of it. And it's still needed. And they go, no, sexism is not something that happens nowadays.
Oh, I know.
And I look at them and I'm like, have you ever like opened your eyes and opened your ears?
Exactly. That's just not true at all. It's crazy. Like, there's still pay gaps in some jobs. There's still, you know, public street harassment happens every day. There's sexism on the social medias, everything.
It is like ingrained in so many things that I feel like for people who don't experience it personally, it's hard to take a step back and see it objectively as they don't experience it and then therefore assume it's not there.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I think that's comparable to, on a different scale, but comparable to racism in that sense, when there's people who have never experienced racism themselves and then they're like, but it's not there because I don't experience it. That's like
exactly.
That's like saying lions don't exist because I've never seen one.
I know, exactly. It's so true. It really is. It's awful. It really is.
Do you feel like you would have raised your because your daughter was born with the sex of a woman, do you feel like you would have done things and you will do things differently because she is born anatomically female instead of male? Sorry, I just...
No, it's fine. I think like I treat her quite equally. So if I had a boy, I'd treat him the same. I'd raise him the same. I'd teach him the same things. Because then that helps him not fall into doing that to other girls. And also if he ever experiences things himself. But I think I'll always give her. So I'll always be open to her being whatever she wants to decide to become or who she really is. I'll always, you know, listen to her. I think like the only difference would be the fear, you know, of anything happening to her because she is born a woman. So other than that though, I think I definitely treat her equally. I wouldn't, you know, not let her do certain things, for example.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting also well, you can't compare because every kid is different, every parent is different, but in that sense still sort of compare because Jo being 20 years more or less older when she gave birth, raising a son, and what is something that you would like to ask her about that?
Yeah, I'd love to ask her like, how is it raising a son? How is it learning, like, did she always be aware of the sexism that's happening? I know that she worked a really, like, she was a businesswoman and before she had her son, so I know she definitely was aware of sexism because women who work in business like really suffer from it. But like, was she aware of rape culture and things like that, or how did she become awakened to that, and how is she teaching her son about it?
I think those are very good questions. Jo, if you're still in the live, feel free to ask Wren about anything that you feel comfortable about in regards to raising a daughter, or anything else in that sense. What is something that for me, sex education was for the biggest majority porn. Yeah. How do you think that in an ideal world, how would you like for your daughter to first see porn? I don't know, can you put it like that?
Yeah, I think so. So was your question, how would you like to seek?
Are you gonna, like, because I wonder about that, are you gonna be like, okay, so there's this thing called porn and you can find it here and here? How is that gonna...
I think I'd tell her about, like, I would never be ashamed or be embarrassed about anything because I think we all do seek it out, like when we're teenagers and things like that, even if it's a joke. And I feel like I'd let her know about its existence once she's obviously of an age, and she can always, if she sees anything that worries her or feels worried about anything because of it, she can always come to me. So
right. That's interesting. Jo's asking if you worry about your daughter when she hits her teenage years.
Yeah, I definitely worry for her because I know what it's like, and I definitely, as a 16-year-old walking down the street, I got catcalled more than like ever now. Now I'm a woman, so it's definitely worrying, but I feel like hopefully laws will be better. Hopefully, it's just a shame that I have to worry about her because but at the same time, I'm not going to tell her not to wear certain things. I'm not ever going to enforce those victim blaming, methods on her. I'll just give her the information she needs to kind of arm herself.
That's amazing. I feel like that is something I never even really thought about, that parents can also, well, no, I did think about parents victim blaming, but not in the sense of don't wear that because. And
Yeah.
I only literally now realize, oh shit, when my parents told me that, that was not actually good parenting, if you ask me.
No, not at all. No, I agree.
Right. Do you have experience with that? Was that what it was like for you growing up?
Not too much, but I do remember other people saying it and society thinking it about you. And definitely a sense of, you know, um, not wearing certain things because, or like parents saying, why would they let their daughter go out dressed like that kind of thing? And it's like, it shouldn't matter really. We shouldn't have to dress like, no matter what we wear, we get criticized. So, no, like it's never a reason for things to happen. The blame should be going on to the men or whoever is perpetrating crimes, to stop.
100%. Preach it, babe. Honestly. Thank you. This is needed. This is why the work you do and the effort you put in is so incredibly important. Thank you for sharing that so much. I remember when it was the first year in high school. I don't know how old I was, like 11, 12, maybe 13, along those lines anyways. And I was at like this music kind of course, and I was like drumming with the drum in between my legs, one of those that you do with your hands. I'm not really coming up with the right words, but you know what I mean. And I had a relatively short skirt on, and I had underwear on, obviously, like most people do. And so boys were looking at my skirt, and I thought, oh, I should never wear a skirt like this again, because otherwise boys will look at my skirt. And it never, not even for a second, occurred to me that it's not me asking for them to look. It's them looking.
Yeah, exactly, that's it. And they're just told like, oh, boys will be boys, that attitude all over again. And it's just, it really annoys me because they should be taught differently. But no, we're always the ones like, I was reminded of a really good quote again earlier. It was like, boys will be boys and girls will be punished. So like we get punished while they.
That is a very good quote.
Yeah,
it's a sad truth, but it's a very good one. I need to be like, I'm still learning as a feminist as well as a person, on many, many levels. I think that Chiara is watching from Control Art Delete, who, check her page. The other day we were texting and I said something in terms of, I've always been one of the boys, and she called me out on it, and I was like, that is true. That's bad.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that was a thing, I think, Joe, you can't request to join because Wren is in here, but I will be rounding it up in a second. Because in a second we will be talking to Joe from Living Cafe and Karina and the Moon, and she is a 36-year-old, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, a mother, and she's way more than that. We're gonna get into that in a second. Thank you so much for joining me for this part of your life. Please ask any questions that you would like to. You inspire me. please keep being that exact self, because
The same to you.
you're fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Now you see behind the scenes that there's actually like, what are they called? You chain your hands, like the things cops use. What? I don't know what it's called. Handcuffs. Thank you. That was my Dutch brain frying for a second. I think Joe's going to be joining us in a bit. Maisie was not able to join us tonight, like I already said a little earlier. That is due to personal circumstances that I will not get into. However, what I will get into is a big fucking thank you to Maisie for designing the artwork for the Slut Show ever since we started. I got into this whole feminist community, like I said before, when I was talking to Wren, due to the Is It Okay Now movement campaign, which is basically showing male nipples on top of female nipples to show the utter ridiculousness of that women are not able to show their nipples, but men are, and the sexualization that goes on in that. And then I kind of just rolled into this whole feminist community of women who are all so honest and open and real and genuine, and who all fight against, trigger warning, rape culture, and who all have one goal for sexism: to fuck the hell off. And that just inspired me so much, and I am so grateful that I met Maisie through that, who makes incredible drawing. She's a super talented artist who draws very hairy females who are super in tune with their sexuality and who do and say and feel whatever they feel like in that very moment, in a very respecting and inspiring way, in my opinion. It's so insane that there's people watching and then I don't know them, and I'm like, there's people who find this interesting. That is so cool. Just saying. Hey!
Hi!
We made it!
Sorry about that.
Welcome to the show anyway.
Cheers!
Cheers. I will do it with my water because I ran out of alcohol. How are you doing today?
I'm alright today. I'm having one of those lockdown days where I feel like I muster up all this energy to like power through, and then I'm kind of alright, and then I have a day like today where it just feels like my batteries just fell out, and I'm just like,
I get it. Yeah.
I'm fine, but it's like such a hard slog. Like, I'm doing this is me like throwing myself over the fence, like to get over into the next day every day. So yeah,
we're still living in a pandemic.
Yeah,
and I just keep telling myself this too shall pass. I'm waiting
like a kidney stone.
Like a kidney stone. Speaking about health, you gave birth to your son when you were 31.
Yeah, I just turned 31 like 10 days before.
Oh wow. And that was quite a traumatic birth, you told me. Can you tell us some more about that?
So my birth was what they would call high risk from the start, because he had opened his bowel in the womb.
I did the same to my mom.
Yes, the lovely green waters. So that straight away puts you at like a high risk birth. So that means you are hooked up to all the machines and you can't really move. I wanted as natural as possible a birth. I wanted a water birth. You can't do any of that. See, when you're strapped to the machines, you can't move, you can't get into any kind of comfortable position. And I know when I did my live with Wren way back when in the summer, I think it was, we spoke a lot about how a lot of the time the more conventional style of labour, I know in UK hospitals, isn't actually conducive to a comfortable birth. So just laying down flat like that and trying to get a baby out is not, it's not the best way to give birth to a baby. It turned out that my baby was the wrong way around, so he was back to back. So what that means is that the labor is a lot more painful, and a lot of the pain is in your back. So yeah, it went on for quite some time, and basically he couldn't get out, he was stuck. But I did do most of that birth with just pethidine, which is just chilled me out. It didn't take away the pain, but my whole birth experience was quite like a hippie experience for me. Like, I found it like quite spiritual almost. I'd done a lot of preparation for my birth in terms of listening to like natal hypnotherapy, and I like totally went into this zone. I was so calm. I'm normally like such a wuss. I can't even have blood taken. Like, well, I can, but I just hate it. But yeah, it was very traumatic. He ended up having to be pulled out of me like quite violently. I had to be cut. I had to have a midwife, and my husband pull my shoulders one way while a surgeon pulled my baby the other way to get him out. And I was like, I am just gonna be ruined for life.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god.
But I'm here to tell everyone that you're not ruined. Even if you have to have your perineum cut, you can still be all right.
Oh my god. You have no idea how much respect I have for you.
Do you know what? It sounds so much worse than it actually is. So I did have a
hard time believing that, to be fairly honest.
I did have a traumatic birth, but not for those reasons, if that makes sense. Mine was more to do with the way I was treated in the hospital. I just wasn't treated very humanely. There were about 10 people in the room. There were four men in the room while I was giving birth. Right? So then, and that's why it's just insane that we have all this performance on social media about censoring women's bodies and how women's bodies are like, oh, but yeah,
there's 4 men.
4 of them. 4. But because I was so
kind of a metaphor for the way the patriarchy works on this earth.
Yes, yeah. Totally. There was so much happening in that birth process that was not my choice. I ended up without a choice once it got to the end, because my baby wouldn't have survived. Basically, we had to get him out by that point. But there was so much that happened that wasn't my choice. There was so much a lot of consultants coming in and out of that room. Wow. So I did almost deliver my baby naturally. So I'm there like on the bed, like trying to push a baby out, feeling that. So when I'm not going to go there. Basically trying to push a baby out. And there's a man walking in and out of my room. I don't know who he is. He doesn't introduce himself to me at all. He comes in and he speaks to the midwife and he speaks to my husband, and he does not address me once.
How did you not shoot him on the spot?
I was like on gas and air at this point. Like, there could have been aliens in the room. I didn't really care. But the midwife actually apologized to me and said, I'm so sorry that he's just come into the room and he's just speaking over you. But yeah, we digress. It was a traumatic experience, but it was kind of an empowering one at the same time, because you
showed yourself that you did do it.
Yeah. And it's honestly not a scary experience. People want you to believe that it's scary, and they want you to believe that you can't do it, but you absolutely can.
We're made for this. I have a hard time believing it, but we're made for it.
And we're like one of the very few species in the world that require us to like go into a hospital and be like tied down to a bed and have men walking in and out of our room and telling us, no, you need to have this painkiller now. And they really tried to push me to have an epidural as well, so I didn't want to So I didn't want to, this talking now, so I didn't feel it, but I kind of had this weird thing in my head that I wanted to feel it, because I wanted to be able to like push at the right time, and I wanted to be able to work with my body, not against it. Let's say
that's a very zen and calming mindset to go into giving birth. Congrats on
this is totally not me at all, to be honest. It's totally not my vibe ever. I'm normally such a panic head, but I'd read so much about natural childbirth, and also that what needs to be in play and what hormones you need to be producing for birth to happen, basically, and to progress. And I went in with the mindset that fear and panic and fighting my body isn't going to be good for giving birth.
Absolutely, I believe that strongly.
Fear and stress actually, fear and stress actually slows the labour down. And I knew that I had that in my head, and I didn't want to go into that room with that. So that's why I was all like, get those drugs away from me, stop interrupting me, stop talking to me. I'll just do it. Yeah.
Right. You are raising a boy, because when he came out, he turned out to be a boy, bisex at least. And I just talked to Wren about raising her daughter.
Yeah.
What do you feel like, what I asked Wren as well, do you feel like you're raising him differently because he is growing up in the sex of a man?
Probably. I don't think I'm making any kind of conscious decision. I'm probably raising him differently because I am not a male and I haven't lived a male experience. I am raising him as a woman consciously, and wanting him not for any woman to experience from him what I have experienced as a woman, let's say that. So yes, maybe in that respect I am. In terms of anything else, in terms of what his interests are, what he plays with, what he does with his time, what his likes and dislikes are, that's all irrelevant. It wouldn't be any different if he was a boy or a girl. But it is in my mind that he's a boy, yeah.
Of course. Do you feel like giving birth at 31 in comparison to Wren giving birth at just 18 years old, do you feel like that was beneficial for you, your older age in comparison, or do you feel like you maybe would have rather done it earlier if you would have had the choice?
I don't know really. I think it's all about personal context and whatever you might be experiencing at that time in your life. I know when I had my son, and I spoke to my health visitor after I had my son, she said she often sees younger mums almost take to it better than older mums, because what happens with older mums, and I'm going to do that, is that when you are an older person, depending context depending, you are more likely to be maybe in like a career and settled, and you kind of have your ducks in a row, and you know what you're doing with your life, and suddenly you're a mum, and everything that you know goes out of the window. And I think maybe as an older mum you maybe have a higher expectation of how you might handle becoming a mum. And I don't know if I agree or disagree with that, but I think in my situation that was probably true. I think I don't know what these bangs are doing. Look,
you look fabulous.
I think I went into motherhood thinking I'm gonna smash this. This is fine. Like, I was quite settled in my life. I wasn't in a job I particularly enjoyed or wanted, but I was settled in my job. I had a decent income. I was with my husband. We'd recently bought a house. I was in a very conventional setting at that point. I really wanted to be a mum, and actually when I became a mum, I was not all over it. I was not shit hot. It was hard, and I've been quite open, I know, with you previously, that I really struggled with my mental health when I had my son, and it was like just the rug being pulled from under my feet, I guess. And I don't think the fact that I was older helped in that situation. I think there was maybe more of an expectation on me to be better, to cope better, which is completely wrong. Like, becoming a mum is a difficult thing regardless of the time of life that you have your child.
Regardless of anything, it's a hard thing to do.
It's really hard, and I think I underestimated how hard it would be to do it on my own, in the sense that I'm not on my own, I'm not a single parent, I'm with my husband, but on my own in terms of the support. So I was new to the area, I didn't know anyone in this my small area. None of my close friends live near where I live, and all of my family are like a 3-hour drive away. So it was literally just me and this baby, day in, day out. My husband was in a new role at work, so during the early days, it was me up all night with the baby. He didn't feed, he had loads of feeding issues, he had loads of sleep issues, and I never slept in the day, and he wouldn't nap unless I held him. So it was literally just me up all day, all night with this baby, but also suffering quite badly with my mental health, and not seeking, why. And me not identifying that I had that issue at that time, so not seeking any support and hiding it from everybody, and just being like locking myself away in this little house. So yeah, I can't remember what question you asked me now, but
thank you for sharing so honestly and openly anyways, because it did answer the question that I forgot I asked too, but that's fine. Oh my god, we're back. Oh, this has never happened before. This is horrible. Okay, so my connection dropped, and I'm sending a request, and I had to move because my connection is only here. Wow, going live on a whole nother level. I can't even, I'm sorry. All right.
Can you hear me?
I can. Welcome back.
This is so fun. We've got like 7 minutes left now.
Oh my god.
I feel robbed by technology.
I do too. What a buttload of technical issues, man. I am not where I usually am, but we'll have to deal with it anyways. So what I wanted to ask you was, I know that you have irritable bowel syndrome, and that you also struggled with eating disordered kind of behavior, and we talked about how one and the other interacts with each other. Can you tell us some more about that?
Yeah, and I think this is probably something that is worth us talking about again, maybe on a different forum.
100%.
Yeah, because I think it's quite a big one. So I have had IBS for about 11 years, but have suffered quite badly with it since I had my son. And I also became caffeine intolerant after I had my son as part of my IBS. So yeah, probably the last 2 years has probably been the most difficult, and it's had the most profound effect on my mental health, and it's had the biggest impact on my relationship with food. So I've always had a weird relationship with food, a lot of guilt around what I'm eating, but with IBS, as we've discussed, you can kind of go from almost like one extreme to another. It can encourage really good eating and really good eating habits, but it can also encourage really dangerous ones, and we can be driven to a point where we are eating unhealthily or not eating at all. So I got to the point where, because my triggers were ever changing, and my IBS was becoming so debilitating, and I almost felt like I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to eat anywhere. I'm obsessed over every single thing that goes in my mouth, which is not a good relationship to have with food. I think the other element, which we didn't pick up on when we had our chat before, was around one of the symptoms of IBS being when you have bloating, and wanting to go out and look good. But if I'm worried about like going out for dinner and then going out afterwards and like wanting to wear a cute outfit, I just barely ate for like the days leading up to going out, because if I don't eat anything, then I can't bloat. We didn't do a trigger warning, but yeah, I'm not saying that I was not anorexic and I was not starving myself, but there's certainly times where I have avoided eating because it's just easier to not eat than to risk eating the wrong thing, let's say.
We're going to get into this 100% in another episode in more depth, because trigger warning, even though it's really fucking late, but I suffer from anorexia. I'm a survivor myself, and I also have irritable bowel syndrome, and I feel like one triggered the other, making the other worse. It's kind of a spiral that is very hard to get out of.
Yeah.
For now, I hate it, but Instagram is going to cut me off if I talk over an hour, which we discovered a couple of weeks back. That was fun. That was interesting. Kiara, if you're still watching, that was great. Anyways, I'd love to have you back on the show to discuss that in more detail, and to also discuss way more about raising a boy, because I think it's a very interesting subject, and you are a very interesting woman who I grew to adore. That being said, thank you so much at home for tuning in for this week's A Live Slut Show. Even though there were some technical difficulties, I hope you enjoyed. I sure as hell did. Next week, I will be back, same place, same time, and I will be joined by Anal Princess and BDSM Bad Bitch Hannah. If you like this episode, I am sure you will love season 1 and 2 just as much. So head over to youtube.com/byellenmoore or listen to The Slut Show on your favorite podcast platform. If you want to support The Slut Show, head over to my Patreon page and follow not just the two of us, but also Wren on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you at home for watching. And for now,
Sluts
out.